Hey guys, and welcome to the Working Money channel. So the XRP-pegged native token goes live today on Binance DEX. Guys, I reported this a few days ago, and today is the day, October 10th, that it's going live. I originally saw this on AMB Crypto, and then I went on Twitter, and Ant1, that's at Ant159694954 on Twitter, posted this, and this a quote from CZ, okay, the CEO of Binance. It's a small step for XRP and a giant leap for Binance DEX. So I opened up this article here, and essentially this is exactly what CZ states. So the listing of the XRP-pegged token on Binance Exchange was such a huge development, which will potentially increase the usage of the token. This came at a time when Ripple, the company backing XRP, committed much effort to promoting on-demand liquidity using XRP. So could this increase on-demand liquidity? It is definitely a step in the right direction for Ripple. However, the Chinese-Canadian business tycoon, while speaking on the development, said, "It's a small step for XRP and a giant leap for Binance DEX." CZ furthered that now that XRP has been pegged on chain, its crypto pegged tokens will be completely backed by Binance's reserves. And CZ added that unlike BTC, which has the symbol BTCB when pegged on the exchange, XRP will maintain the same symbol, XRP. Henceforth, withdrawal of XRP can be made directly on Binance.com by either choosing the native or the BEP2 version, the billionaire CEO ended. So guys, XRP BEP2 now tradable on the Binance DEX, and today was the day, in fact, that they launched that. So great news reported there from Binance. Then I don't know if you guys heard the Brad Garlinghouse interview with Anthony Pompliano. He mentioned this, and this wasn't, it was kind of an offhanded comment originally, but obviously the crypto news outlets have picked up on it, and it has to do with sanctions, essentially. So Ripple's Brad Garlinghouse says there's no reason why the firm shouldn't work with Iran. And so for those of you guys know, the US has historically put on trading sanctions with Iran, and they can do that through the SWIFT network. But Brad Garlinghouse highlighted one of Ripple's differentiators. So one of the things that we do through RippleNet is make the passing of that information much more robust compared to how SWIFT works today, but the banks and the governments like that. Garlinghouse also spoke about how the US government has barred cross-border transactions for some nations such as Iran, dismissing this move. Garlinghouse said that they are also part of a global banking infrastructure, and there's no reason why Ripple shouldn't work with them. Garlinghouse went on to explain the role of XRP in enabling such an ecosystem with the CEO. This article goes on about the interview itself, but I thought that was really interesting. So RippleNet, obviously an open ledger, obviously an open network, and any bank that is connected to RippleNet can do business with any other bank connected to RippleNet, meaning any one government can't just switch on and off the tap like they can with SWIFT and their correspondent banking network to other banks in Iran. Some obviously will see this as a negative aspect, some will see it as a positive aspect. I think it was interesting that Brad Garlinghouse mentioned this, especially since governments love to have control, and part of this process is to get everybody to like you if you are Ripple. So it's a bit of a slippery slope. I thought it was funny that the media did actually pick up on this and that they're reporting it, and I don't know if Brad was thinking completely. Well, I mean, Brad Garlinghouse always seems to be thinking exactly what to say in interviews, but I feel like this time it may have been a bit of a slip. I don't know. Do you guys have an opinion on this? Tell me in the comments if you do. But there's more going on in the crypto space. This whole idea of a tokenized economy. We've talked about this in the past. This from Wagner, aka Wagdog, at Buy and Sell SLL on Twitter. Are you ready for a tokenized world? It's coming, guys. Soon, real estate, art, stocks, and oil will all be tokenized. And guys, this from Decrypt. I'm going to read you a little bit of this, but it's fairly lengthy. I will link it in the description if you guys want to read further. Essentially, well, you know what? Essentially, I'm just going to go over it briefly. I've already read the article. I'm just going to kind of skim over it. Essentially, the idea that we will be living in a tokenized world. There was an ICO boom in 2017, 2018, and this was kind of the first idea of, being able to buy tokens and owning something. But what they're talking about here is a little different. It's the idea that right now we can trade in oil, we can buy art, we can buy goods and commodities with fiat, and there is a certain valuation attached to these, particular items. But what this is suggesting is that one day everything is going to be tokenized on the blockchain. So anybody will be able to buy and sell anything essentially instantly with blockchain technology. And to be honest, I think that there are going to be many different projects that will be tokenizing different things. We know Ripple is focused on cross-border transactions currently, and we also heard that Brad Garlinghouse, he mentioned in the interview that they will be broadening out as the years go by. He likened Ripple to Amazon Books. When Amazon first started in the late 90s, they were focused on book sales, and then, so they had that one vertical, and then they just expanded, and now they are no longer the Amazon that they once were 20 years ago. And that's a good thing, right? Businesses expanding, branching out, essentially finding different ways to get bigger, grow their business, and be successful. And this is part of what Jeff Bezos did. So Brad likens Ripple to this. And so right now they're focusing on cross-border payments, but could we see a world where tokenization, now I'm not saying XRP is going to tokenize every single thing in the world, but what they could do is tokenize a lot of that stuff that we see already in financial markets, since XRP is already kind of or rather Ripple and XRP have already kind of dipped their toe in the financial markets. I feel like within that financial space, we're going to see a lot more warmth towards Ripple, towards XRP, right? If it works for cross-border payments, I feel like, governments and economists, people who work in finance will be more likely to accept XRP as a tokenization mechanism for things like trading commodities, oil, gold, coffee, cotton, stocks, bonds, all kinds of financial products. I think XRP could be that vehicle. And, we've seen the stats on how big some of these economies are and how the tokenization of these economies could really change the world. And not only that, guys, good for you and I, giving XRP more value. As Brad says, the more utility a token has, the more valuable it'll be. And of course, the economy is just one facet of this. There is art. There is so much stuff that we can tokenize. That it's unbelievable. I don't even think we can wrap our minds around the magnitude of the world economy sometimes. So anyway, I will link this in the description for you guys to read further. And then I saw this from Stephen Bull from the DEP at DEPSunH. I never thought my concept of XRP-pegged assets could come true. And he retweets his own tweet from March 22nd. Interestingly, one day the price of XRP will be so high that people will have to tokenize XRP to transact at a smaller value. So for example, one XRP tokenized by 1 million XYZ coins, the concept of a crypto backed by crypto will eventually come true. And so, we've toyed with this idea, the idea that XRP was built for a maximum value of $10,000 per XRP, right? That would essentially mean that every drop would be worth $1, I think we worked it out to be. That article originally put out by Mark Phillips, and I think that could be very, very, very possible. Now, let's say there is so much demand and so much need for XRP to continue to tokenize the world's economy. And of course, we know economies get bigger too. So even if we're still just tokenizing the same amount of things, but the entire economy gets bigger, the value of XRP will have to rise. So what could this mean? Another cryptocurrency backed by another cryptocurrency? I know that the idea is it kind of makes your mind swim a little, but this is essentially what Stephen Dieppe is talking about here. Crypto backed by crypto, because the one crypto is worth so much that you indeed need another crypto to kind of leapfrog on top of that crypto. Anyway, I don't want to mess with your heads too much here. Then I saw this, guys, on Twitter from Tony Valentino. That's at TonyVal 76476318. And guys, this has to do with our economy right now and, the precarious position we're in. The United States and China obviously have been in trade wars for a while now. And Tony Valentino says this sounds like they want to begin leveling the currency playing field. The USD will be dropped as a global bridge reserve if China doesn't try to interfere with the process. West still wants control of what happens after the USD demise. China could back currency by gold and disrupt. So he links to this article here. So this is a Bloomberg article talking about how the US is considering a currency pact with China as part of a partial trade deals. So linking to this article, they talk about this, that the US wants to essentially negotiate. The White House is looking at rolling out a previously agreed currency pact with China as part of an early harvest deal that could also see a tariff increase next week suspended, according to people familiar with the discussion. So the currency accord, which the US said had been agreed to earlier this year before trade talks broke down, would be part of what the White House considers to be a first phase agreement with Beijing. It would be followed by more negotiations on core issues like intellectual property and forced technology transfers, the people said. The internal deliberations come as a team of Chinese negotiators led by Vice Premier Liu He arrived in Washington to resume trade talks with the U.S. trade representatives. Okay, so essentially, trade talks. We know China has weaponized, maybe a little bit of a strong word, but essentially manipulating their currency in order to make trade work in their favor. And that's putting it very, very simply. So the U.S. has come out saying, you know what, we need to have a currency pact, and this has to do with minimizing discrepancies with the Chinese yuan and the U.S. dollar for the sake of trade. So essentially manipulating currency price and their fluctuation and their relationship to each other in order to make this trade deal go through. Guys, this is a slippery slope. It's teeter-tottery at best. I think we are in something right now that could be very, very bad for the economy. Obviously, you don't want to toy with the economy. I mean, some economists weigh in on this, essentially saying, an agreement on exchange rates could be practical, face-saving way for both sides to reach a mini deal that helps de-escalate trade tensions. In practice, though, it would probably have limited implications on China's exchange rate policy, barring any unlikely Plaza Accord type commitment. So could be good in the short term, but for the long term, I don't see this ending well. You know what? The fact that the economy could collapse is a very, very scary proposition. But we are getting to a world where, the tokenization of everything is likely going to occur within the next decade. We know cryptocurrency regulations are coming shortly, and we know the world is moving that way, right? With all the Ripple partners, with all the positive things happening in the space, I think there's going to be more opportunity for, people around the world, especially if this becomes something like a global collapse. In 2008, it was a financial crisis for the United States. It did have an impact on the world, but I think if we have another financial crisis in 2019, 2020, 2021, whenever that happens, I think it's going to impact the world more severely, just because there is so much more global interest in economies. And, we live in a global world. Economies are more intertwined now than they ever have been before. So cryptocurrency, tokenization, having this one standard to help the world get out of this is going to be a positive thing. I think we will see people pouring their fiat into crypto, which will be great for us because we've been holding crypto since before it was hot. Anyways, guys, some interesting things to think about, but I want to hear what you guys think. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Like the video if you like the content I'm providing. I always love hearing your comments. See you in the next one, guys.